All right. I've got the session recording now, so if at any time I go too quickly, you'll have an opportunity to watch this on YouTube later. We'll put a post to this webinar along with all of our other previous webinars on the Buzztouch control panel. So let me start off by showing you real quick that we are real people. I like to always start off by going to the Buzztouch website and going to this About Us screen. There's a lot of times that I'll sign up for some kind of service online and get the magical welcome email and start using the service and really know nothing about it or about the people behind it. So that's why I think it's important to see that we're all like real people. We're here to help you. We're here to make you help you succeed with whatever it is that you're here to do. I think we're all here for the same thing. We're a close-knit community of people who want to succeed in making apps for whatever reason, whether it's for money or for fun or for our business or something like that. So you can see on this About Us screen, David Book. He's the guy that started it all. He's our guru as far as typing up the code and everything, and just an absolute brilliant guy and fun guy to hang out with. Steven is his partner there. This is me here, Chris Robbins. Like I said, even though it says Warren in the control panel, this is who I am. Ian usually helps us out with these, but he's busy tonight, so I'm going to be flying solo. Susan will sometimes help out. She also works with the plugin market and the plugin developers. Warren is the guy who usually schedules all the meetings and events and webinars and stuff like that. Tony's our partner relations guy, helps us find partners and making our product better and finding things to help you guys make your apps better. And then Trish is our PR and kind of press person. So that's who we are. We're scattered all over the United States and all avid Buzztouch users and enthusiasts, and all working together to make this a great product for you guys. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth into this kind of PowerPoint, if you will, throughout the night, just to keep me going on track. I try not to do too much death by bullets, but it does keep me consistent in what I do give to you guys each week. So this is kind of the subjects we're going to be going over tonight. What is Buzztouch? What can you do with Buzztouch? How does Buzztouch work? Who is Buzztouch for? How is Buzztouch different? And then where do I start? And hopefully within the 90 minutes, we'll get through all of this. We'll make an app and show you how, I hate using the word easy, but comparatively how easy it is to get an app started and make it look decent. And here's where we start. What is Buzztouch? Now that's a big long sentence there from our website, but basically, if I can boil it down to what Buzztouch is, it's a service that helps you make apps. I think that's basically what it boils down to. It's a website that you can log into, start creating an app. At some point, you download the source code or the actual project file. You compile that with whatever your compiler is, whether it's Xcode for an Apple app or Eclipse or Android Studio for an Android app. And then once it's going, you continue to manage that same app in the online control panel. So instead of doing the bulk of your editing in a compiler in a programming environment, you do it all in a web environment. So that's basically what Buzztouch is. We've got a lot of people using it. We've got a lot of people very successful in using it and creating great apps. And it's exciting to see every day more people saying, hey, I've got an app approved in the App Store. And that's, those are my favorite kind of messages to get every day. So what can you do with Buzztouch? Like I said, it kind of speeds up the process of making an app. So you can quickly develop an app, and then you can manage that same app with a online control panel instead of having to do a lot of the heavy coding yourself. And really, when it comes down to it, the updating of the app, as long as it's something that you plan ahead, you can do most of the updating of your app within the control panel. That kind of saves you from having to go through a whole approval process at Apple or at Android every time that you resubmit something and force your users to download a new app or update their app. It's all kind of streamlined on how it works. So how does it work? I kind of briefly pointed it out in the what is Buzztouch part, but basically on our website you create a project. A project on our website is basically you create one project for each app that you're going to make. Once you create that project, you start filling it up with screens. We call screens plugins, and we'll get more onto what a plugin is and how you use them later on in this presentation. After that, at some point, you'll download the source code or the project files. You're going to open those up in your compilers. You're going to compile it either for your simulator or for a device, or you're going to package it up and send it off to the App Store. So it's, it sounds easy, and at some points it gets frustrating for some users, but that's why I'm so glad you guys are here to kind of get a jump start on how this works and, kind of see how I do things so that you can, hopefully learn a couple tips on how to use Buzztouch. Now, who is Buzztouch for? I think the first bullet is kind of all-encompassing, and I put it there for a reason, because really anyone and everyone is the best to answer. And in my time here at Buzztouch, I've seen all walks of life come in, all, like I said, with the same kind of background. I looked for some way to make an app. I tried a couple of different things. None of them really worked. I've been frustrated, and I don't know how to code. I don't want to learn how to code. I just want to make an app, and I just want to make something. And they all kind of end up at Buzztouch, and they all kind of figure it out. And that's great. So it can be someone who I would call a non-developer, someone who doesn't have any coding skills per se. I've seen people who are developers, some people who do have coding skills but are just looking for a way to make things faster. Web developers, a lot of web developers that over the last 10 or so years have made their bread and butter on building websites, and now that's kind of converted to, everybody has a website now, but more and more businesses and people need apps. So a lot of web developers are coming to learn a new skill. Businesses looking to promote their business or create a more interactive way for their business to touch their audience. And then everything else from doctors, teachers, photographers, high school students, basically anybody and everyone. So when I thought about what makes Buzztouch different, there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of different app makers out there with similar ideas. And when I thought about what makes Buzztouch kind of stand out, the first thing that I thought of is the community itself. If I had to describe again what Buzztouch was, I could go through that long paragraph about what it is we do. We help people make apps, but really I would start off by saying Buzztouch is really a community of people, and then we're all here to use the product that Buzztouch has made. So I've been in the online world for as long as online worlds have been existing, and I've been members of forums, of chat rooms, and user bases and stuff like that, bulletin boards, way back. And I've never been to a place who had a community quite like Buzztouch, where it's a bunch of people who are all willing to help each other and really wanting to see everybody succeed. And that's really unique, especially in the sense that we're all here to kind of make apps. So in the long run, we're all basically competition for ourselves, but at the same time, we're all very happy to help each other. So with that, I'm going to jump into the website again, back to Buzztouch. And I'm going to go to the forums here. And because that screenshot's a little dated by a month or so, or a couple months, you can see that there's almost 16,000 topics started in this forum since we created it. You can see some of the people who have been around in our top 25 lists. Someone like Mark, or Go Northwest as we know him here, 6,000 posts. This guy's like a ninja. He answers questions quicker than I even see them pop up. Mac Apple, another great gentleman who's always willing to help. All these people are here, daily and answering questions in And these are all just, other Buzztouch users. These aren't even, the admins who are, running behind the scenes. Um, so it's always great to see, how everybody's willing to help each other. Other things that make Buzztouch different, that first bullet there, keep the code. That's kind of unique. Some of the other app makers out there, they'll kind of keep all the hidden secret sauce to themselves. So they'll let you click through their website and add pages and add some graphics and put an app together. But when it boils down to it, they're going to have that. They're going to have all the magic stuff, all the source code, if you will, and they're going to usually submit it to the App Store for you, or they'll charge you to submit it to the App Store once you get it finished, or they'll charge you to download the source code. A lot of places, if you want to get to the source code, which if you are handy with coding, you can go in and make some changes to the source code. But even if you're not, it's important to realize that the source code is what enables you to submit the app to the store and make changes to the app and resubmit your changes. And what you want to know is that if some other service has all that control and they disappear, then you're kind of out of luck. You don't have the source code. You might have an app in the App Store, but you have no way of fixing it or updating it. So everybody at Buzztouch, when they sign up for an account and you make a project, you can download the source code, and it's just there. It's yours, and you have full control over it. The next little subject here, project scalability. What I mean by that is that you can start off with something simple. So a lot of app builders will, like I said, give you very few choices on what kind of screens to add, and you can add them, and it's very easy, and you can configure some colors and graphics and stuff. And but what you end up with is a very simplistic looking app, which sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes simple is a perfect solution. But sometimes all these simple apps start looking like each other, and Apple kind of keys in on that and notices that they look kind of cookie cutterish. But there's other solutions out there that if you know how to code, whether it's in a different language or you can code in HTML or something, you can create a pretty fantastic app. But it requires a lot of knowledge up front and a lot of learning along the way. Where Buzztouch is unique is they're kind of right in the middle, where you can start off with something simple, and then you can add more and more to it, and you can make it more and more complex as you go. So sometimes getting that first couple screens in there and getting it to work and seeing it launch on your device or on your simulator, that's obviously an awesome feeling. And then you just want to keep on making it better and better. And with Buzztouch, once we start talking about what the plugins are again, then you'll see how you can start off with something simple and make it better and better and still not have to learn how to code. So here we are talking about plugins. So what plugins are, I described them first as being every different screen. If you think about every screen in an app that you're going to create is going to be derived from some kind of a plugin, whether it's a menu, whether it's a movie player or a website, whatever it is, it's going to derive from some kind of plugin. Now this is where some competitors have very few choices on whatever they call them, different screen types or plugins. And what's unique about Buzztouch is that we have a core set of plugins that we've created to make a decent looking app, but we've also opened up a market where other developers or other users of Buzztouch can create their own plugins and submit them and sell them in our market, and that in itself makes increases the functionality of other people's apps. So I'll show you real quick here. We'll jump back onto the website. When we look in the plugins up here, you'll see this long list. I'm going to scroll through it quickly just to show you how long it is first. And you can see all different types where there's a quiz, video players, different types of menus, button menu, list menus, and all these different plugins. Some of them are free, some of them come already installed, or you can install them into your control panel and start using them. And some of them are ones that members have created and that they charge money for. The money that you do see, whatever you see the price on here, that is a one-time charge. You can download it and use it as many apps as you want, one app, or every single one of your apps, and it's just a one-time charge. There's a difference in price between a guest and a member price. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about what the membership is. And but you can see that there's just all kinds of stuff, and you can start off again with something easy, and then just keep on adding stuff and making your app better and better. So with that, we're going to come up to our first question session here. If you have a question, you can feel free to type it into the question box. I'll look at the attendee list here also. If you have a question, then I can unmute your microphone if you want, and I can let you ask it to us if you have a microphone built onto your computer or something. Let's see, looking at the list here. All right, I've got a question from Chris. Let me, Chris, if you've got a microphone, I will unmute you. Chris.
Yep.
How you doing, Chris?
Very well, thank you.
All right. So what was your question?
Just about the plugins, I'm wondering how well they're supported. I see you've got ratings on them, so there are user reviews and things like that. Do you have a conversation with the actual developer?
Yes. Again, since all of the developers of those plugins are members of Buzztouch, then they're all very accessible, either through our forums, or some of them have their own websites with their own email for support. And we go through a pretty lengthy process of kind of vetting them to make sure that they do work, and we test them out pretty well to make sure they're just not putting garbage into the market, just like Apple does for apps. We have to do for our plugin market, and we work with them to make sure that they're creating something that isn't buggy, something that works, and something that's worth the money. But it ultimately comes down to being a free market where they get to make the decisions on what they charge for it, and we just hope that they make great stuff. And so far, it's really it's helped me make some really fantastic apps that I would have no other way of doing it by using other people's hard work.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, no, that sounds good. Thank you.
Great. Is there any? I'm going to go ahead and mute you again so we don't get any feedback along the way. Any other questions? Let's see. Looks like Leo has a question. Leo, if you have a microphone, you are unmuted right now. You're free to talk. If you don't have a microphone, then I'll be happy to try to read it out from what you typed up. All right. So Leo has typed in, could you tell me if the source code is required to post to public if I build for others and publish app to iTunes Store? I'm not exactly sure what that means, but let me answer what I think it might mean. Anytime you publish anything to the iTunes Store, you're going to need to have the source code to compile it to create an actual app out of it. And if you have somebody else publish it, then you can either publish it through your own developer's account, or you can publish on behalf of another person. So let's say, for example, you're working for a client, and the client is actually going to own the app when you're all done with it. You can compile it and submit it on their behalf to Apple. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were asking, Leo. If you want to type in anything else, or is your microphone working? All right, not sure, but Leo, if that wasn't the full answer, go ahead and and type in anything else you want. When we get to another question break, I'll be happy to revisit that question. So with that, again, anytime, go ahead and type something in, and when we get to these breaks, there'll be a couple more breaks along the way. I'll catch up with the questions that are logged in. I'm just going to continue with the presentation here. So briefly, I wanted to talk about where to start. You guys have obviously, by being here and getting the link to this webinar, you've already done most of the work. You've signed up for the account, and you've registered your email address or confirmed your email address. So we thank you for that. But just to get you jump started on, join the community and getting started, this is some of the things that I suggest you do. So in your account menu, and I'm gonna jump into this control panel in just a second. In your account menu, there's a couple different things that I like to set up first. The public profile, the developer profile, that's optional, but we'll look at that. And then the email settings. And then visit the forum. I'll show you on the forum where the introduce yourself section is. And then we'll talk briefly about the Buzztouch learning paths and the how-to pages. So let's look at all these different items here on the website. So here I am back at my user account, and this is my main control panel for my user. This is just a guest user that I have for this presentation. You can always get here at any time by clicking on your name up in the upper right-hand corner. So let's look at some of these different settings here. The first one was the public profile. So basically, just like it sounds like, you want to come here first and set up your screen name, because that's going to be, you won't be able to post anything in the forums until you have a screen name set up. So you select the screen name. You can upload an avatar if you wish. Add a little status message here for, if anybody clicks on your profile, you can have a little short bio or just a hello or thank you or something like that. If you add in your location, then sometimes when we have events that are live events, we'll look in our database to see if anybody's nearby where we're going to be, and we'll send out an email invite. And then this last one is just what you want people to see when they click on your name. If you want them to see your published apps or just your developer profile, something like that. So that's just a public profile, pretty basic. The developer profile is more if you have maybe professional skills, or if you're building some professional skills, you can set up some different things in here. The first one is just a question that doesn't affect anything that you do, but it's just for our kind of our database to know what kind of system everybody's using, what kind of computer they're using, what operating system, and what compilers they're using. So we can make sure that we're making the product that's suiting the needs of our users. Different things in here for like setting up website addresses, Twitter URLs, Facebook, LinkedIn, basic stuff like that. Again, another description and a list of skills. This would be under your developer profile. So instead of just being your public one, maybe you could say, I have a company called XYZ and I make apps for this type of industry. And then any experience you may have, languages you speak, and if you are willing to do work for other people. Maybe you're a graphic designer who's learning how to make apps, and in the meantime, you're happy to make logos or graphic images for something. You can list that out in your little developer profile here, and then put actually an hourly rate. Now, Buzztouch has nothing to do with the handling of money of any kind of transactions this way. It's just something that you can display for your own behalf. So we looked at the two different profiles. The other one was email settings. That's just a basic thing that you want to make sure that you go through here and select the different options that you want. Probably the most important one is send me an email when I receive a private message, and then send me an email when someone replies to a post in the forums. So those are pretty important. Other than that, you can set up your privacy however you want to with the email settings. So the last two things were the how-to page and the Buzztouch U. So in this Buzztouch U, the learning path, we have 3 learning paths so far: the Buzztouch learning path, the iOS or Apple learning path, and the Android learning path. This Buzztouch learning path is the one that I listed in the PowerPoint as being about 30 minutes long or so, 5 different lessons. They're video driven, and then they have little question, quizzes at the end to make sure that you're listening. And when you go through those, it shows you a little bit more in depth about how to use your control panel and stuff like that. When you go into the iOS and Android ones, they get more specific to using Xcode or Eclipse, and when you do that, you get your star when you complete it, and it gives you points for your overall points. You can see that Joe Guest only has 20 points because he hasn't done very much yet. But it's just a good way to get started. The last one is an ever-growing list of how-tos. Anytime you have a question, I would always suggest go here first. See if someone has typed up a tutorial. A lot of our users have typed up some really nice tutorials on all different subjects of things that you'll find and run into in Buzztouch, iOS and Android specific, Buzztouch specific, self-hosting, which we'll talk about later, and just a lot of information. So if you're looking for something, if you need a guide on how to install Eclipse or how to get something set up, then I would look here first. If you don't find the answer here, then we invite you to go to the forums and create a post or start searching through the old posts, and then see if you can find the answer there. I would almost guarantee that pretty much any answer or any question you have is going to be answered pretty quickly, unless it's just a really weird question. So that's kind of what I do to get started and make sure that all that stuff is set up. Once you get all that set up, then you're ready to start making apps, and you're ready to be supported when it comes time to have a question. So we're going to make an app here tonight. It's just going to be a very basic one, but I wanted to just show you how it kind of works. I'm going to be doing this all in the Apple iOS environment rather than Eclipse. It works very similarly, except for the very last step when I actually hit compile. All the rest of it is pretty much the same. Everything that's in the control panel works the same. It's just I'm going to be using the Xcode compiler. So in my control panel, you'll see me go through these steps here. I'm going to create a new app using the control panel. After that, I'm going to add a few screens. I'm going to download the source code. I'm going to open up that source code or that project file in a compiler. I'm going to launch it by compiling it or hitting the go button or run button, whatever it is. And then it's going to be running on a simulator for me, and that's all it's going to take to get hooked. Once I do that, I'm going to go back and forth between the simulator and the control panel and make a couple subtle edits to it, make it look a little bit better and kind of change things up a little bit, and then we'll go from there. So this is where I'm going to go back to the website again, back into my Joe Guest account. In the upper left-hand corner of my control panel is going to be a link for applications. So I'm going to create a new app for this demonstration. And we have to give it a name, so I'm just going to call it New User Demo. Click a couple boxes here saying that I've read the terms of service, all the lawyer stuff that you have to read anywhere you go, and then click here saying that I haven't, I'm not going to violate any copyright laws. Once it creates that in our database and shows up in your control panel, it gives you the option to go ahead and continue into the application control panel. So each of your apps that you create is going to have kind of this as your home base. This is a control panel for that app. So you can see you've got your main account control panel, and then you've got a list of your applications, and then this is going to actually be the application itself that we're working on. So one of the things that I might start with is adding an app icon, uploading an icon, so it's going to show up when I download it. I'm going to skip that step because there is a built-in icon I'm going to use as default. That would obviously be something that you edit along the way. But I'm just going to jump right in and start working on adding some screens. So I'm going to click on the screens and actions. In this control panel, it shows that I've already got one screen. It starts me off with just one basic home screen. And this is what they call a menu or a simple menu plugin. So we may use that, or I may add a different type of menu to it. But basically for this demonstration, I'm going to be building, let's say, a city guide type app. So I'm gonna pick a city. I've decided to do Tampa, Florida as a city. And let's say I want to create an overall guide to the city and have a list of attractions, maybe a list of great places to eat, and then maybe a list of some of the sports teams and stuff. Very basic app, but just enough to show you how everything kind of gets pieced together. So a couple different ways to add these plugins. When I do this, if I'm going to create a new app, I like to try to think about how it's all going to work. I might get out some paper and pencil and actually dry out my screens and just kind of get a rough sketch of what I'm working with, and then kind of figure out what my screens are going to be. So I know I wanted to have, I know everything's going to lead to it. What I call the actual end content, whether it's a website or whether it's a media file of some sort. That's going to be kind of where the user ends up at. Everything else is just going to help me navigate to and from that content. So I know I'm going to have a couple menus. I know I'm going to have a couple content screens. And for this, the bulk of it's going to be menus and websites, just to keep it simple. So I know I'm going to have a list of sports teams. So I'm going to go ahead and add a page for that. I'm going to call it sports teams. And I'm going to select again another menu simple plugin, which is just a list menu, and you'll see what that looks like when we get it all put together. So I'm going to add that. If I go back to my screens, I can see now that I've got my home screen and I've got another menu for my list of sports teams. So I'm going to go back and add another one. I said I wanted to go places to eat. Might be the name of my menu. I'll pick the same type of menu simple again. Add that one. And then I said attractions. And I'll keep the same menu simple. So when I look back at my screens, now I've got a home screen, I've got my sports teams list, I've got a list of places to eat, and then attractions. So I've got them created. I don't have anything added to them yet, and I don't have them connected yet, but this is an important part, just getting them created. So let me go ahead and continue to create a couple more types of screens. I know that on my sports teams, I'm going to, let's say I want to add a football team, a baseball team, and a hockey team. So I'm going to actually add the end content for all those. And this time, instead of actually adding them here, I'm going to go into the actual menu and add them from there. Two different ways to do it. This is just kind of a shortcut way. So I'm going to actually go into my sports team menu here. And this is where it has the menu row items. If we look at an example, this is what a generic list menu looks like. So each one of these row items is going to lead to something, and that's what I'm going to create right now. So let's go ahead and start off by adding a row title called, let's say, football team. And then I'm going to say that I want to add a new screen, so I have to give it a name. I'm just going to call it football again. And then what type of screen is that? That's going to be a custom URL, which means a URL or a web page. So I'm going to add that. It's going to show up in my row title here, football team. It's going to lead to this screen called football. I'm going to add two more screens for the other ones that we need. So let's say baseball. And I'll have that lead to a screen called baseball, which I'm going to create and tell it that I want it to create a custom URL again. So again, this is just the shortcut way of doing things. Now I'll go back to my screens menu. I still have one more to add, but I wanted to show you that they were adding these screens in here. And we'll go ahead and do this the other way, the longer way, but still it's fairly quick. And let's just say I want to create a screen named hockey. I'm going to select again another custom URL and add that. So when I look back at my screens, it added the hockey one, but it's not attached to the sports team yet. So this is the second step that I have to do. Go back into here and tell it that I want a row called hockey team. And I've already created that screen, so I'm going to actually select it this time instead of creating it. So I'm going to select this one that I just created at the screens menu. And then I don't have to select something here because it says I've entered an existing screen above. So I'm just going to simply add that. So two different ways to add things to a menu. Once you do it a couple times, it gets very easy, it gets very quick, and it's not confusing at all. So now I've got a list menu here with my 3 different things. I'm going to go back to the screens menu here. So I know I've got a sports team with 3 things linked to it. I need to make a couple screens for these 2 right here, places to eat and attractions. And then I have to link all that to my home screen. So let me just go into places to eat real quick. I'm going to make a row title called Steakhouse. And I'm just going to add it this way. We'll just have one restaurant in here. You can see it showed up in the row. And then I'll go back and we'll add one attraction. Let's say amusement park. And we'll link that one to a custom URL. And again, if this is going too fast, once we get this done and running, I'm going to stop for questions, and then I'll be happy to jump in and out of this control panel to show you what I did. So I've got all my screens here. The last thing I need to do is attach these 3 menus here to my home screen menu. So I'm going to go into this home screen menu that I haven't done anything with yet, and I'm going to add in this 3 row titles, one for sports, and we're going to select that menu called sports teams, I believe it was, and add that in. Going to add another one for places to eat. I'm going to select that menu and add it, and then maybe a row called things to see, and I'll select my attractions menu and add that. So now everything is created, everything is linked together. I haven't created any of this final content. I didn't tell these web pages where they are yet, but I'll get to that after we get it actually running. So I'm up to a point now that I've got things set up, and I'm ready to download this project file. So when I go back to the main menu here of this app, one of my options down here is to download the iOS or Android project. So this step right here asks you a couple things. First, it says here, choose the plugins you wish to include. Now it's smart enough to know which kind of screens I've already added. So you can see that it's already checked for me the menu simple and the custom URL. So that's all I really need. If I wanted to go in and add anything later, if I knew ahead of time, then I would go ahead and select this. Maybe if I knew I was going to add a PDF doc, I would go ahead and select PDF doc. So it downloads, so it would download that plugin. The overall idea is that you don't want to have plugins in your project that you don't need. You know, they just take up space. But if I did download this right now and compiled it and send it off, you know, got a finished working project and sent it off to Apple, and then later on decided I wanted to add, you know, something else. I wanted to add a splash screen. Well, then I'd have to re-download this and recompile it and resubmit it. So kind of think ahead on what you want to add. And usually you've got plenty of time to figure this all out because generally you're not going to download something, compile it in 10 minutes and send it off to Apple. You're going to be working on it for a while and getting it kind of massaged, and you're going to go through this process of downloading a couple different times to get it all right. So that's the first step, is choosing the plugin. So I chose the 2 that I needed, and I just added an extra one knowing that I might want to add that PDF doc later. The next thing is to include optional SDKs. We're not going to get into who all these are yet, but just know that we have a growing list of SDKs, which are basically different types of third-party things that you can add to your project, and feel free to read about those. And then we pick out what we're going to actually compile for. So I'm going to click on this Prepare iOS project. It's going to crunch on it a little bit, get all the screens put together, get the plugins put together, and it's going to give me this zip file. Once I download this zip file, it's on my home computer now, and I'm ready to open it up in the compiler. Now let me open up the actual folder that it opens here, and you can see it has a bunch of folders. It's got an instructions file. So that instructions file is going to tell you exactly what to do to get this, set up and running in Xcode. And then I've got my actual Xcode project. I'm going to bypass this instruction file because I already know what I'm doing, but I'm going to tell you what it is I'm doing. I'm just going to do it in kind of a shortcut method. So what I'm going to do is double click on this Xcode project, which is the actual file that tells Xcode or the compiler, how my project works. So once I double click that, it's going to open up in Xcode. It takes a couple seconds to kind of crunch through the files, index the files. You can see that happening up here. And then it's just sitting there waiting. Now, the one step that we can't skip that's in the instruction file is to drag over some folders. The most important one is the plugins. So it has you drag over, nope, sorry about that. Has you drag over a couple of these folders into Xcode, and it shows you how to do that. And you just say, add this to my project. And like I said, the most important part is this plugins here. You can see it downloaded the 3 plugins that I needed. Once I got that, I'm ready to actually run. So it says I'm gonna start this on an iPhone 6 simulator and hit run. The first time you do this, depending on what kind of plugins you have, it could take a while to compile. Because I have very simple plugins there, it's going to crunch pretty quick. And you can see it started off here with my main menu. My main menu had the 3 different things linked to it. And when I click on any one of these, it's going to go to a screen like the sports teams that had my 3 links. Places to eat, I had my 1 link. And then the things to see, I had my 1 link. Now, I didn't actually finish any of these yet, because if I clicked on amusement park, it's going to default just to google.com, because I haven't actually told it where to go yet. But that's basically how it works. I've got it up and running now. And now what I want you to see is I'm going to go and change some things in this, and I'm done with Xcode now. I'm not going to have to worry about Xcode for a while. So I'm going to go back to my control panel and just finish up those screens so that it actually works. So I'm going to go back to my control panel, back to my app control panel, go to screens, and now I've got my menus kind of set up, but I need to get these pages fixed. So I'm going to go into each one of these real quick. And the main thing for these, what we call custom URL or website plugins, is just this right here, the document web address. So you can see how it defaulted to Google. So I'm going to make this one, what was this, football? Buccaneers.com. Save that. Change my baseball. Save that. And change my hockey. And save that. Now I still have to do my amusement park and steakhouse, but while I'm at a stopping point here, I'm going to show you how this update process works. Now, any changes that I make in the control panel, they eventually need to get out to the end user, whether it's me on my simulator or actually somebody that's downloaded this app from the App Store and is using it, on their phone. So there's 2 different ways that it can update. I can force it to update by clicking this button. Now, that's not something that the user is normally going to have to do. If I pop out of here, and then this is my new user demo, if I launch back into it, as soon as it launches, it checks with the control panel to see if I've made any changes. If I have, it's going to prompt the user, hey, the app has changed, do you want to refresh it? If they click no, then all those changes I just made will be just ignored. But normally the person's going to say, yeah, if you've added something to my app that I've bought from you, sure, I want it to be added. So it just takes a second, it refreshes. And now when I go to sports, all my things still here, but when I go to any one of these links, it's going to go to the actual website and set it to Google. So all those changes I made happen just because of that refresh. So I'll show you also the other way of doing it. If we look at places to eat and look at the steakhouse, you can see it's still stuck on Google. So I'm going to actually go back here, edit steakhouse, and I'm going to pick Outback since it started in Tampa. Hit save. And now instead of relaunching my app, I'm just going to hit the reload here. And it just takes a second. It downloads this newest information that I just saved. And now when I select that steakhouse, it knows to go to outback.com instead of going to google.com. All right, so one last thing to do just to make this complete is change my amusement park website address here. Pardon my clicking. bushgardens.com. All right, so now I've got this all working. I've got a very nice and ugly app finished. Let me just make sure that this works. There we go. And we got a nice ugly app. So I'm going to do just a couple things to pretty it up, just to show you how easy this is, or how efficient it is to do. So I'm going to go to this main menu, and I'm going to spice up the main menu just to make it look more like an app. So we just looked at the menu row items here. There's a couple things that I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through them quickly, but I'll answer any questions about them. So I'm going to start at the top. The screen nickname, that's just whatever we named it. The top navigation bar is going to be the very top bar up here, usually changing the name or the color. So ours still says, if we look at it, it still just says home. Now I don't want an app that just says home, so I'm going to call this the Tampa Bay Guide. And maybe I'll change the nav bar background color to black to make it look more modern. So I'm going to hit save with that. I'm just going to go through and force the refresh every time I do this just to make it quick. And now you can see I've changed the name of my page and changed the color. So a couple more things I'm going to do here. List layout. Right now the list style defaults to a square corners. I'm going to change that to rounded corners and hit save on that. When I do that and refresh, you'll see that's going to look a little more appish, where it's got the rounded corners here. A very common look to a menu. A couple more things I'm going to do. Set the screen background image. Now I've already got an image picked out. I think it was called Tampa_BG. Let me double check that real quick. Yep. All right, so anytime, this is a good time to talk about images and stuff. Anytime there's a file, I usually have an option of adding the actual file name or a URL or a link to it. So if I actually had a link to a logo somewhere, I could do that, and I don't have to recompile anything. But what I usually do for any kind of graphics is, if it's small enough, I'm going to go ahead and include it into the app, just so that the app doesn't have to require internet to have these graphics downloaded. So I've told this project that there's going to be a background file in my project called Tampa_BG.jpg. Now I haven't added that yet, but I'm going to show you how I do that. But just keep that in the back of your mind that I've told the control panel that it's there, so I need to actually make it there. So if I do, I did save that. If I do go and refresh this, it has no idea where this background image is. So this is the only time where you'd have to go back to Xcode, the compiler. Now you've noticed I've made all these changes without having to go back to the compiler. But I do have to, in this case, I want to drag this image in. Now I could have just as easily linked this to an online URL, but like I said, my general rule of thumb is if it's small enough, I'm just going to go ahead and build it into the app. So all I did was dragged it right in here, dragged it into my project. And anytime you do that, anytime you add a file, then you have to hit the run button again. Because what you'll see, and it'll probably happen too quick for you to see, but up here where it tells you what it's doing, it's going to say that it's recompiling it, and it's going to add in that one file. So it doesn't have to recompile the whole app because it already compiled it once, but it does have to copy over that one file. So it's going to do that real quick, faster than we can actually see. And now you can see that my background image is in there. Now this is kind of unusable, so I'm going to do a couple more things to help that out. And let's go back to the control panel. And I'm going to go up here again to the list layout and have this row background color. Maybe I'm going to change that to white. And when I do that, I should be able to at least see the fonts now a little bit better. And there we go. Now, if I was going to actually make this, I would, reposition this so that this graphic was, down here somewhere. But you can see how I went from just a, plain Jane looking thing to at least a little bit different looking, a little bit better looking. I can change the font color. I can change the background color here. We can put background music. You see one of the choices was background music. So maybe I could have, the Buccaneers fight song playing when they were on the main menu. All different kinds of things. And remember, this is just the simple menu. There's a bunch of other menus that have a lot more customization on them, header files type that you can swipe through, kind of like a cover flow type menu. But that's just my little quick 10-minute build an app demonstration. So I think that leads us up to, this is just showing that if you're going to make an iPhone app, you need to use a Mac computer. If you're going to make an Android app, you can use either Mac or Windows. Just to let you know that. And that's going to lead us up to the next question session. So if anybody has any questions about what I just did, I know it was kind of quick, but hopefully it was, kind of straightforward. Creating the screens, linking them together, adding the content to the actual screens so that they actually do something, and then we just made it look a little bit better. So any questions, please either type them in. And the less questions I get, it usually tells me that I'm doing a good job explaining everything. So I've got no problem with that. All right, looks like Leo retyped in his question. Says, what I'd like to ask is the source code from Buzztouch is under what kind of license? Is the source code need to be made available to public like GPL license? It is, basically public domain, or it is open source. I'm not exactly sure the legality behind the different types of GPL licenses, but I know it's open source in the sense that you can download it, you can make changes to it, and you can do whatever you want with it. I think the only restrictions would be if you were to just start rebranding it and creating your own, basically Buzztouch competitor. I think that we would have a problem with that. But as far as for your own use, you can download the source code, make any changes, and you notice that all the stuff that I didn't have to go into, any of these files here, and edit any of this programming mumbo jumbo. All I did was I did everything in the control panel. All right, a couple more questions popped in. Looks like Vicky asked a question. I'll unmute your microphone here. Vicky, would you like to ask the question, or you want me to just answer what you've typed in? All right, Vicky asked, how would you manipulate the size of the image to make it smaller and make it fit under the list? There's a couple different ways of doing that, and I'll spend just a quick moment showing you that real quick. What I chose was this just simple menu, which basically has just a background image, and that's what I used. So if I was going to continue to use this type of menu, then I would just use an image editing software to, to change the graphics so that it wasn't covered up. Other options are, if we look in the plugin list here, there's one that's called Menu Image Advanced. There's one that's called, or is it Menu with Image? So this is a very popular one. And you can see that it actually has a header image that when you use that, the header image stays on the top and it pushes your menu down. From there, that's a very simple one. Just costs a couple bucks. From there, there's some pretty fancy ones. Let's see if I can find it in the list here. Where'd it go? Okay, BTA design menu. I like using this one a lot. This one has a lot of options where you can actually change the picture of the cells. You can give it a header image. You can move this up and down, and you can really make things look pretty great. The more work you put into it, obviously, the better and better it gets. So you have a lot of different options on setting the images up for your menus. So that's a good question. Got a question here from Fabian. Let me unmute Fabian. Fabian, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Hi, folks. Fabian here. I just had a quick question on how I can add specific buttons to perform an action on my app, or a slider where a user can put in a certain numeric input without having to type in something, like a slider to go from 1 to 10.
Okay. Um, the first question was about buttons. There's different ways of doing that. There's a couple different plugins. One's a button menu, where it actually uses buttons instead of list items, and the other one is what they call a nib button menu, where you can actually take a button and drag it around your screen anywhere you want and keep it there. Now, any of those buttons is just going to, when you tap on it, it's going to lead to another screen, just like our list menu led to another screen or menu. So that's what you can do with buttons, just by using a different plugin. As far as your slider bar or your number input, there isn't one like that yet, a plugin built in like that. It's all possible. I think I might have an example here of one of my projects where, let's see here. This is just a quick example where I can type in someone's age and hit done, and it calculates out different heart rate zones and maximum heart rate. This is for an exercise app that I was making for a client. So it is possible, but this is all a custom plugin that I made, or I had somebody made for me. So you can, if you have some skills in programming, you can do anything you want with Buzztouch. That's kind of the thing, that the plugins that we talk about. If there's not a plugin in our little list of plugins, you can have someone make you a plugin, and you could go to an outsourcing website and give them some specifications and have them create one. So I worked with a developer on making some of these screens, and some of them I made myself. So it's all possible. It's just a matter of finding the right person to do it. And sometimes, even in our community, we have some plugin developers that will do work for hire. So if you ask them, hey, can you make me, this, then they'll say, yeah, I can do that, and they might quote you a price on it. Does that answer your question, Fabian?
Thank you very much, Warren.
Okay. Let's see. And let's see, Vicky. Let me make sure I didn't mute you. There you are. All right, Vicky, your microphone is unmuted now. Are you able to hear us? All right, I'll keep you unmuted just in case it starts working. I'm not sure what's happening. There's a question from Matthew. Let me find you in my list here and unmute you. All right, Matthew, your microphone should be live if you've got a microphone. Would you like to ask a question?
Sure. Hi, guys. Thanks for doing this, by the way.
Sure.
Very informative. My question is, if you were to buy a plugin, like the ones you were just showing a moment ago, would that plugin then automatically appear in the list of plugins from the screen, choose plugins to include right before you compile?
Okay, yeah, let me show you a couple things real quick. This is again, my main control panel. This is my list of installed plugins. There's nothing really I can do here, but I see which ones I either own or have purchased. But within the application itself, like the one we were working on, when I went to compile, to answer your question, yes, anything that I do purchase would show up in this list then. So let's
Okay,
say
great.
I made this app, um, this new user demo app that I was working on, and I got it kind of up to this place, and I wanted to add in something fancier. Um, and I went to the app market and I purchased it. I would have to go back here, and it would show up in here. I would have to click on it and then add my screen and then re-download it. And then you can either re-download it as a completely new project and open it up in your compiler, or if it's just a simple like one plugin that you did differently, you can just download and drag just that one plugin just right into here. Just drag that one plugin into here, and then you can still keep on working on the same project and just recompile it. Yep, great question.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So I think that's all the questions so far. I'm going to go through a couple more things here real quick, and looks like we've got close to 25 minutes left. So let me go through a couple more things in the presentation, then I'll open up the floor again to any and all questions. So the last thing I want to talk about here is the membership, and this isn't a sales pitch. You're not about to sit through me trying to sell you a timeshare or something. I'm not a salesperson. I'm just here to explain, what a membership is and how it works. At the start of this year, we decided to come up with a membership model that was just very simple, and it boils down to when you sign up and give us your email address, then you become a guest at Buzztouch. And as a guest, you can do certain things. You can build some apps. You can go to the forums. You can buy plugins. Basically, you can do everything you need to make a plugin, an app. And everything I did so far tonight, you could see that was in a guest account. It wasn't in my account. There was nothing special about it. It was in a guest account. I was using all free plugins. So basically, someone who just signed up and hasn't spent a dime. So once I finished this little goofy app that I made, I could, fill it up with as much stuff I wanted to and submit it off and start selling it to people. So that's a guest. A member is someone who maybe wants to take it to the next level and do a little bit more, and is willing to pay a yearly fee for it. And we like to think that it's very affordable. We know that that's obviously affordable to one person is different than another person, but we understand that. We try to make it valuable at least. So just to kind of show the difference between a guest and a member. As a guest, if you signed up and you have that free account, if you want to consider that, you can create up to 3 apps in your Buzztouch control panel. Like you saw, I had 2 of them so far. You can still download all the source code. Everything that I did, that I downloaded, that's all mine. There's nothing, I don't have to pay for that source code. I have access to the forum for, to ask any questions, full, complete, access to the forums to get my my troubles fixed. I can make purchases from the plugin market. Now, remember, I did show you that on some of the apps, there is a difference in price between a guest, what a guest would have to pay and what a member would have to pay. And that's completely up to the plugin developer. We give them the option to charge differently, and most of them want to, charge one price for what they consider the plugin to be worth and charge a little bit less for what, a member would pay. So most of them are very, they want to be generous to someone who is committed to, being a member of Buzztouch. And then any type of public webinars like this one that you're attending right now are available to guests, and then select live events. So basically, you can get your feet wet, create an app or 2 or 3, and see how it all works and see if it's for you. And if that's enough, if you came here just to make an app for your band and you completed it and that's all you needed, then great. We're happy that you were successful, and we're happy that you were able to do it and not spend any money. We're fine with that. If you want to come around and do a little bit more, then maybe you want to become a member. So as a member, instead of 3 apps, you can create up to 50 apps in your Buzztouch control panel. So I would be able to create up to 50 apps. So that's one of the biggest benefits right there. The next one is a great option for some people. Some people will use it, some people won't, and that's the self-hosted software. Basically, without getting too technical, the self-hosted software means that you can actually download a version of our control panel and run it on your own website. So the best analogy I can give you is, WordPress is probably the biggest blogging software out there. And when they started off, WordPress was WordPress.com, and you could create a blog on their website, and you could use their website to create your blog. Then they offered the self-hosted version, which means you could download their software, install it on your website, your own www.whatever.com, and you can create your own blog there, and it has a lot more privileges. You have complete control of it. So we decided to do the same thing. If you want to create more than 50 apps, or if you want to be able to let more people log into your own little control panel, normally if I had a client, I wouldn't want that client logging into my buzztouch.com control panel. They would have access to all of my apps. So with a self-hosted control panel, you can run it on your own website. You can create user accounts for different clients or friends or family, or we have some people that are like teachers that will set up one of these and create a login for each of their students. And then they're able to, do all the same things that you do on Buzztouch, just on your own website. So that's kind of neat. And we have a lot of people using it, a lot of people, loving it, the way that it works with their clients and stuff. If you do that, if you do set up your own self-hosted, and we used to call it the self-hosted server, but I would call it a self-hosted control panel is probably a better name for it. You don't have to have a server per se. Server makes me think of a very expensive, web computer out there. Really, you can do this on pretty much any, $2 or $3 a month, hosting account. So if you do that, you can create unlimited apps. So you can create as many apps as you want on your own server, plus the 50 apps on the Buzztouch control panel. If that's all you need, and you're happy to log into Buzztouch, then that's a great way to go too. So a couple other benefits for a member versus a guest. That keep the source code. That's the same whether you're a member or guest. You get to keep your source code. We added a push notification option for our members. So before, there were a lot of third-party programs that you could download and configure and install into your app and get it working to do push notifications. We just decided, let's take all that hard work out of it and just kind of build it right into Buzztouch. So if you're a member in your control panel, there'll be a separate option of if you want to set up push notifications. Basically what those are, if you've ever used an app and you launch it and it says, hey, there's a new version, go download the update, or hey, we've come up with a new game, go check it out at the App Store. Those are little push notifications that get pushed to your screen. So we can do that both through Google and through the iOS apps. Other benefits is not only can you buy the plugins in the plugin market, and they're normally going to be a little bit cheaper for a member, so you can save some money on them, but also you can create plugins. So all those plugin developers that are creating plugins and selling them in our market, they are all Buzztouch members. So if that's something that you want to get into, we have some people that come here, and that's their whole mission in life is just to make a plugin and sell it. And some of them make some decent money doing so. If that's something that you want to do, then that's something you have an option of doing if you're a member. We'll also have member-only webinars, little training sessions and stuff, some advanced training that's either led by one of the team members or by David himself. And those are usually exclusive to member-only. And then you also get a member badge in this form, and then anything else that we add along the way. So let me show you real quick just the member badge. Go back to the website and go into the forms. And if you look at, let's see, maybe Mad Rod here, you can see he's got a member badge. And that's just a way of displaying that you've you enjoy Buzztouch, that you've supported Buzztouch. We're not here to get all of your money. We're just here to create a great product, and we do appreciate everybody that supports us in keeping this product, growing and growing in functionality. So that's basically the differences between guest and memberships. Um, and even though I said that this isn't a sales pitch, I do want to thank you guys. I always try to thank you guys for sitting through this, 90 minutes of me rambling about this stuff. So I always offer a promo code to to the service, and if you use the promo code Tampa Bay, I'll set that up as soon as I get done with this webinar, so that it'll work. It'll work for the next 2 weeks, and it says $10 off there. But let me show you something real quick. And this is, you're going to think I'm a salesperson. But if I look at the pricing page, you can see kind of a rundown again of the guest versus the member. And it shows right here that we have a promotion going on for $49.99 per year versus our normal $80 per year, which again, we consider to be, based upon our competition, very, very reasonable for what you're getting. But that $10 off that I showed you is going to be now $10 off of this promo price. So this doesn't normally happen. That doesn't usually coincide, but I'm able to do that for you this week. So if you sign up, it'll actually come up to $39.99 for the year. So again, that's just my way of thanking you for spending the time to learn and kind of get a jump start on how to use Buzztouch. So make sure that you do jot that down in case within the next 2 weeks, as you're playing around with Buzztouch, you decide that you would want to invest your $40 into getting the member benefits. Just use the promo code Tampa Bay, and when you click on the Join Us button here, you'll see, actually, no, I think from within your account, if you go to upgrade, then you'll see a promo code box right here. Just type in Tampa Bay, all one word, and you'll get that. You'll see the discount come off of your invoice. So I've got a question break here. I'm going to go through one more slide because I know there's one more slide, and then we'll break completely for questions. I always like to end off with success stories, and just to kind of show you some examples of people who have been using Buzztouch and succeeding with it. And that's, I love hearing these stories. And I've got the privilege of hosting the podcast for Buzztouch. It's called Buzzcast. If you search for it on iTunes, I do a podcast, and I get to interview some people. And I've interviewed Serge Romelli. He's a French photographer, and he's one of the leading Adobe Lightroom trainers in the world. And he had a bunch of great Adobe training products that he's created over the years. And he wanted to figure out how to make them into apps and start getting into that market. So he did some research. He found Buzztouch. He spent a couple of weeks learning how to use it. He cranked out some apps, put them in the App Store, and he's been doing great with them. It was a great privilege to talk to him and talk to him about his success and how he went from not knowing anything about apps to creating some products and repurposing the information he already had into a mobile format and doing great. Delinda on the right here is an educator, a teacher down in Texas, I believe, and she wanted to find a way to help her students create apps. So she's been using Buzztouch to do that, to help kids learn a new skill. And then Tim's been using this again. He's got his own self-hosted control panel that he uses, and he creates apps for first responders, like paramedics and stuff like that, so they have easy access to some information and stuff right at their fingertips, right on their phones. And he's been creating some great apps and getting some good business that way. So we love to see these success stories, and we certainly hope that all of you in this audience tonight end up making something great and sending us an email thanking us and maybe being on the podcast, being interviewed by me someday and talking about how you're you're crushing it with whatever you tried to do, whether it's, again, something just for fun that you've done or something for a business or a career move that you've made. I'd love to hear your story. So I've rambled on now for 80 minutes. I've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to go back to the question panel here and see if we have any more questions. Vicky again is asking if I have an example of a self-hosted control panel. Right now, I do not. I wish I could show you one, but I don't have a login for one right now. But basically, it looks exactly like, it looks very similar to the Buzztouch control panel. All of the app information is the same. The only difference is you get a little bit more control over, user accounts and stuff like that. So the stuff that you would think that you would need to be able to control the user accounts and installing plugins and stuff like that, it's all kind of linked to our backend. So when you purchase a plugin at Buzztouch on your main account, when you go to your self-hosted server, you can tell it to download it. It checks to make sure that you have purchased it, and it just installs it into your control panel for you. Let me see what the next question is. Are you able to create games on Buzztouch? We get that question all the time, and the best answer is you can make any type of app in Buzztouch. It's just a matter of the skill that you're starting with or the help that you have. So you can obviously, see the list of plugins and see what's already built there for you that you can, kind of add quickly. And I think the only game really we have right now is a tic-tac-toe game. But if you do find a developer that can create, a game for you, then you can certainly have that integrated into Buzztouch. So in that example, I talked about how I've talked to developers. I've got a friend who's been making iPhone apps for a while, and he's been doing it what I consider the hard way. He does everything right inside Xcode from scratch. All the typing, all the words, all the coding and stuff. And I showed him Buzztouch, and even though he's got the background and he knows how to create the stuff manually, he says, "Oh my gosh, that would save me, a day right away just on setting up view controllers and menus and tab bars and navigation controllers, all that stuff that he has to create from scratch. You can do quickly, and then you can just add in the actual meat and potatoes into the plugins." So I know it's not a perfect answer, but the yes, you can create anything. It's just a matter of what skills you have and what skills you can bring to the plugins. But that's really as simple of an answer it is, it's really the best answer. All right, I got a question here from Lynn. Lynn says, can you demonstrate a good app that has been developed through Buzztouch, an app that shows advanced function? Good app is kind of again, a relative term. On my computer right here, I can just show you again a project I've been working on for a client. So you'll recognize some of these plugins as being some of the simple plugins, but just when you put a little bit of polish to them, you can see how the menus look a little bit better. This is a button menu, so any one of these buttons is going to either lead to a video or a PDF screen or a notepad where someone can come in and type in something and save it. And when they pull that up again, their notes are still there. Again, another kind of, this is just some HTML embedded in there. You can see here's the pace calculator that I made. You can pull up, what you think the pace on a half marathon. This is for a half marathon training app. Maybe I'm going to do my half marathon in 2 hours flat. This would not be for me, but it would show what your pace per mile has to be. And out of the zone, the heart rate zone set, this particular client has set up a training program for, what the pace should be for each of those. And you can select between kilometers and miles because we want to stay friendly to the rest of the world. And, just, other links and stuff like that. So this is again, I hate to say it's a good app because I made it, but it's just an example of how you can polish some of the simple stuff up and make it look good. Let me think if I've got anything else. One of the another one of the kind of the wow things is going to a map page. You know, Apple always likes to see examples of their own technology used. So when they have the built-in maps and they have driving directions built in, you know, it's kind of neat to be able to route, you know, someone to a driving direction using the functionality of the phone. So, you know, some of that is you know, kind of neat to see. And this is all, again, this is just a map location plugin. It's one of the free plugins that comes with your control panel, and it lets you create a bunch of different locations. Let me go ahead real quick and unmute Lynn's microphone to make sure that I successfully impressed him enough with my apps. Lynn, how are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Is that good enough for? I wish I could show you better things. I don't have anything running on my simulator here, um, but I've seen.
Yeah, I was hoping to see example of apps with advanced controls. You know, something that looks, you know, professional, like the sort of apps that you can download from the app stores.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen plenty, you know, lots and lots of apps that, you know, I've seen some that are very simple, like my little Tampa app, you know, people are very proud of, and that's great. And I've seen some that, you know, when you get a little bit of graphic design help and stuff like that, you can really make something look great. And you know, obviously the better it looks, the more successful it's going to be. So it's obviously to your advantage to make something look good. And then some of the other
Yes, that's right.
some of the other plugins, some of the menu plugins, like I said, there's a cover flow one where you can swipe through. I don't have that running on my simulator here. That's on another computer, but I'm working on one of those for a client, and it's, you know, that certainly wowed this client when I showed it to them. They're like, "Oh, that's much better than the you know, the list menu." So yeah, you can do some neat stuff with it.
Thank you.
Sure. Let me go back to the question panel here. All right, Vicky asks, am I able to connect a back end of a website to an app created in Buzztouch? Absolutely. That's something that you know, there's a lot of back end stuff built into Buzztouch. It's all PHP driven, and like especially like these maps and stuff, how it pulls up these items, it's all done through PHP. If you do it in our control panel, then it just feeds off of that. But you can set up scripts to run off your own backend, and you can, if you know how to do the PHP and the MySQL or MySQL, you can have it query off of, you know, data on your own website and draw it into there. We have some people doing that for let's say real estate. I've seen some real estate apps where people are drawing off of another website and getting, you know, house listings and stuff like that brought into their app. So absolutely. Let's see. Okay, Matthew asked if there's more Buzztouch U Learning Paths being created. We're at kind of we're making decisions on how we're going about that. We want to make sure that the content that we create is useful and is timely. And sometimes by the time we can create some content on a given subject, the pace of this industry is so quick that it outpaces how fast we can create it. So we're thinking about different ways of using that Buzztouch U to create more content. That is on our radar. What we do want to make sure that it's valuable. And Vicky asked if there's a map directions plugin. I think, yeah, this is, you know, she must have asked before I showed this. You know, any one of these, you can do it several ways where you can actually just have this information button lead to a website, or you can have it linked to the driving directions. So in this particular app, I had it linked to driving directions. And any other questions here? We've got a couple minutes left, and like I said, even though this is a 90-minute webinar, I'm going to stick around until I make sure all your questions are answered. I don't mind running over a little bit, and you guys are free to sign off anytime. I'm sure you're got your own things to do. A couple more questions here. Let me go back to Lynn real quick. Lynn, you got a follow-up question?
Yes, I was just typing it, but
Okay.
thanks for coming back to me.
Sure.
Just a follow-on from Vicky's question. Can an app send data to a database and update that database, store that information, and then be collected again back to the app?
Yeah, again, there's a couple different ways to do that, and again, it depends on the skills that you can bring to the project. There's some third party kind of plugins that you can use that will integrate with that, like Screengo and some of the other ones where they can tie into their own little third party backgrounds. But basically, if you can create a plugin or have someone create a plugin for you that can hit your back end with a PHP script or whatever language you use, it can all be done. It's just a matter of who you get to make it. There's I don't think any of the plugins that we have are set up to directly post to any type of a back end, but it's certainly possible.
Thank you.
All right. And there's a question from Chris. Chris says, is there a form type plugin? And yes, I believe there is. Let me pop back in here real quick. Go to the plugins. Oops. My control panel is covering up my search box. Oh, that wasn't it. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh no, not a form. There's a blog. That's what I was thinking of. There's a blog plugin, which I may have already passed up here. Here it is, Blog Pro. So this is a plugin that you can use from your control panel. You can create blog posts and add them into your app, as opposed to pulling them maybe from a RSS feed or something. Right now there is not a pre-built form plugin, but I'm sure someone's working on one. And if they're not already thinking about it, then shame on them, because that should be one that they're working on. Now, any type of website or anything that's already created, you can obviously, if the website is responsive and mobile friendly, you can just link right to it. So if there was a form, a pre-built form that was already on a website that was responsive, you could just use that same custom URL plugin that I was using before, and use that. That would be my best guess for a quick and easy one. And let me just go ahead and open up. Chris, did that answer your question?
Yes, thanks, Chris. That did. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking. I've got kids at school and in various sports clubs, and a kind of a forum for the sporting events and results and things like that might be quite useful.
Right. And a lot of times, my kind of rule of thumb is don't reinvent the wheel if it doesn't need to be. So I would do some research and find, I don't know if PHPBB or one of those big time forum softwares is already kind of responsive and mobile friendly. I would just create a forum that way and link into it, and because they're already going to need to have internet access, might as well be posting right onto the actual forum instead of doing it through an app. It's all integrated in there. It all stays. Like, let me show. Nope, that's not going to work. I don't know how far I got with this one here. There we go. Like if I showed. here's a Twitter feed that's just really a website, but Twitter knows, hey, this is a mobile device. Let's go ahead and make it look like it's part of the app already. So I'm sure there's form software that does the same thing. But yeah, great question. All right, any more questions? I don't see any more in the list. If not, let me go ahead and wait. Let me see here. One more. Okay, question offline. Let me give you. Let me give you Lynn, for your question that you want to take offline. The best thing you can do is go to this About Us page and click on my name here, Chris, and you can send a message right to me. That'll go straight to my personal email, and I'll be happy to set up a way to answer that question there. But if there's no other questions, I want to again thank you, each and every one of you, for coming in and attending and listening and learning and getting a jump start on your app creating. These New User webinars happen usually every 2 weeks. I think we've got some schedule conflicts on the next one, so we're gonna skip the next one and do the next one again at the end of this month. But by all means, even if you're not a new user, you're welcome to find those in your control panel. Let me show you where those are. In your main control panel under webinars, you'll see that they're scheduled here. And in fact, this is the one right here that you're attending right now. You can also go back through and find other new user webinars that have videos linked to them. So here's one I did back in June, and you can just click on that. You can watch that. Each time I try to make a similar app, something simpler, but just maybe a little different. There may be some questions that are helpful to you in those, so you can watch any of those. I'm hoping to get this one that we did tonight posted on here in the next couple days, so you'll see the link onto there. But you're more than welcome to come to as many of these new user webinars as you wish. If you have a question and you want to just kind of hang in and let the webinar go in the background and listen to me ramble for a little bit and then pop in during the question parts, feel free to do that. Other than that, we also want you to go in to the forums and click on this introduce yourself link here, and then type in a little something about yourself. Tell us what you're here to do. You're going to get lots of responses of people, warm welcomes, and ask any questions you want in the forums. And please go out there, play around with it, make something great, show us what you make, and we want to help you succeed, and we want to watch you succeed and be happy with you. So thank you so much, as always, for watching this presentation. Don't forget that if you do use in the next 2 weeks this promo code Tampa Bay, as soon as I hang up here tonight, I'm going to go enter that into our system, so it will be live starting right now, and that will be for $39.99 for the year membership. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Ask in the forums, find me in the forums. Use the About Us page to ask me a question. And thank you so much for being here.